The Commonwealth's history stems back to the long reigning days of the British Empire, an empire on which the sun would never set. Now a symbol of peace and prosperity, the Commonwealth has provided a sense of belonging for those involved. The Commonwealth is an echo of Britain's once glorious empire. Established in 1931 and once a union of 8, it has developed into a strong bond between 56 member nations. The head of the Commonwealth is Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, with Prince Charles next in line as her successor. It was initially created as the British Commonwealth of Nations through the Balfour Declaration at the 1926 Imperial Conference. The United Kingdom finally formalised it through the Statute of Westminster in 1931. Britain once controlled a staggering 25% of Earth's land at the height of its empire's standing. British territories stretched from the Americas to the depths of Asia.
The British Empire is a group of nations, territories, colonies that Britain had essentially conquered, exercised control over, really since the 16th century and the earliest days of exploration.
It was composed of the dominions, colonies, protectorates, mandates, and other territories ruled or administered by the United Kingdom and its predecessor states. What started as an attempt to expand trading horizons and explore new lands soon turned into a race for domination amongst the coastal powers of Europe.
Over the course of more than 400 years, this empire grew to become the biggest empire the world had ever seen. As it was put at the start of the 20th century, this was an empire upon which the sun never set.
Britain, France, Portugal, Spain, and the Netherlands were in a race against each other. During the Age of Discovery in the 15th and 16th centuries, Portugal and Spain pioneered European exploration of the globe and, in the process, established large overseas empires.
Portugal and Spain were the great pioneers of empire in the sense that in search of metallic wealth and new resources, they set out first of all for the New World, notably South and Central America, and they created empires for themselves there.
They generated wealth through trade and pillaging. They decorated their cities and quickly cemented their place in modern civilization.
This stimulated competition in other parts of Europe. It wasn't very long before France and Great Britain were also circumnavigating the world in search of their own empires.
At the time, Britain was getting to grips with the early Industrial Revolution. Under King Henry VIII, it successfully acquired the neighbouring country of Wales and began a union with Scotland. This was the beginning of the formation of the new sovereign state known as Great Britain. The medium-sized island, comprised of 3 countries, Scotland, England and Wales, would soon be known across the globe. Britain had a powerful naval force. A nation surrounded by sea could not conquer the New World without first conquering its first obstacle. During the 16th century, a rush of European countries began colonizing the Americas. Among them were the British, the French, the Spanish, and the Netherlands. They had their own settlements and started colonies. However, Britain had other ideas.
The story of empire is one of coercion, often one of violence, and it's a story of extraction, of the extraction of economic resources.
Britain's path to total dominance wouldn't be without trial. During the 17th and 18th centuries, Britain fought in several conflicts over territories and new trade routes. They were ultimately victorious.
It encompassed colonies in Eastern and Central Africa, in Southeast Asia, and of course, colonies that became dominions: Australia, New Zealand, Canada, South Africa, and of course, the United States of America had once been part of the British Empire, then known as the 13 American colonies. They fought for and won their independence from the British Empire in what would be one of the first big colonial wars to resist the control of Britain. It's one of the reasons why by the mid-1940s, early 1950s, the idea of empire has become quite unsustainable, in that there have been growing resistance movements in many parts of the empire against the oppressive nature of the British state, most notably in India, but also in the Caribbean. They wanted to throw off the shackles of empire and gain new independent status.
The British Empire stood firm for over 100 years, but in 1997, the last remnant of the empire dissolved as Britain handed back control of Hong Kong to China.
Cook appeared more optimistic after a meeting with Hong Kong's future leader, C.H. Tung, who told him he hoped to organise elections within 12 months.
Fortunately, the Commonwealth had already been established by this point. The current Commonwealth of Nations was formally constituted by the London Declaration in 1949, which modernized the community and established the member states as free and equal. Today, any country can voluntarily join the modern Commonwealth. The last country to join the Commonwealth was Rwanda in 2009, a small landlocked country in Central Africa. Queen Elizabeth II established the Commonwealth during her address to Canada on Dominion Day, also now referred to as Canada Day, in 1959. At the time, Canada was still a member of the British Empire. She said that the establishment of the Confederation of Canada on July 1, 1867, was the birth of the first independent country within the British Empire. So, it also marks the beginning of that free association of independent states, which is now known as the Commonwealth of Nations. But she wasn't the first to refer to a free state as a Commonwealth of Nations. In the 19th century, Lord Rosebery described the ever-changing British Empire as a Commonwealth of Nations whilst on a trip overseas to Australia, which was, of course, a British territory. Over time, different countries of the British Empire gained various levels of freedom from Britain. These self-governing countries would now be known as dominions, the first of which was Canada in 1867. These dominions would eventually participate in the 1926 Imperial Conference. This was the fifth imperial conference that brought together the British Dominion's prime ministers and took place from October the 19th to November the 22nd, 1926. The meeting was notable for producing the Balfour Declaration, which established that the Dominions are all equal in status. They are autonomous communities within the British Empire, not subordinate to the United Kingdom. They would now be known as the British Commonwealth of Nations and were eventually formalised through the Statute of Westminster in 1931.
The First and Second World Wars were disastrous for the British Empire.
Then came the war. The king had a sad and weary task to perform. Wherever his people suffered, he came, and by his presence brought comfort and assurance in their ordeal. And when victory crowned our arms, the king led our rejoicing. It was the king who opened our year of festival, but we did not know then that his serious illness had already begun.
In that they put huge pressures on the British economy. One thing that you need if you're going to maintain control over an empire is a local police force. You need to be able to police that empire, you need to be able to keep control over it. That becomes much more difficult after the First and Second World War because the British economy is exhausted by these total wars. It's also the case that during the Second World War, many men come from the colonies to fight on behalf of the motherland, to fight on behalf of Britain against the forces of fascism.
Many of you have had to see your family life broken up, your husband going off to his allotted task, your children evacuated to places of greater safety. The King and I know what it means to be parted from our children, and we can sympathize with those of you who have bravely consented to this separation for the sake of your little ones.
They believe they're fighting for democracy, for the ideals of independence and freedom. And yet, after the war is won, they return to their homes in the colonies and they still don't have their own freedom and independence. And there's something of a contradiction there, which really spurs on these independence movements in their drive for full independence. The Commonwealth of Nations is today essentially what the British Empire was more than 70 years ago, in that it is the empire rebranded through a new set of values, completely different to the empire. It's made up of independent nations who have come together in what has been termed free association because they share certain cultural, political and economic links.
Aside from becoming a member of like-minded independent sovereign states, joining the Commonwealth provides benefits to those who seek membership.
Is the head of the Commonwealth to address us?
Prime Minister Muscat, Prime Minister May, Secretary General, ladies and gentlemen. Having on so many occasions been welcomed to opening ceremonies around the Commonwealth, it is a pleasure this time to welcome you to my own home. Here at Buckingham Palace in 1949, my father met the heads of government when they ratified the London Declaration, which created the Commonwealth as we know it today, then comprising just 8 nations.
For a country to become part of the Commonwealth, they first need to meet the criteria. An applicant country should, as a general rule, have had a historic constitutional association with an existing Commonwealth member, save in exceptional circumstances. In exceptional circumstances, applications should be considered on a case-by-case basis. An applicant country should accept and comply with Commonwealth fundamental values, principles, and priorities, as set out in the 1971 Declaration of Commonwealth Principles and contained in other subsequent declarations. An applicant country should accept Commonwealth norms and conventions, such as the use of the English language as the medium of inter-Commonwealth relations, and acknowledge Queen Elizabeth II as head of the Commonwealth.
The British monarch is the head of Commonwealth and, if you like, the symbolic glue that holds this geopolitical organisation together.
Members of the Commonwealth can expect to receive developmental training and guidance on upholding the country's peace and democracy through infrastructure and educational developments.
Who then, or in 1952, when I became head of the Commonwealth, would have guessed that a gathering of its member states would one day number 53, or that it would comprise 2.4 billion people? Put simply, we are one of the world's great convening powers, a global association of volunteers who believe in the tangible benefits that flow from exchanging ideas and experiences and respecting each other's point of view. And we seem to be growing stronger year by year. The advantages are plain to see. An increasing emphasis on trade between our countries is helping us all to discover exciting new ways of doing business. And imaginative initiatives have shown how together we can bring about change on a global scale.
The history of the Commonwealth we can trace back to the interwar period, the period between World War I and World War II, when what were termed the White Dominions, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, South Africa, they, in their drive for greater independence, became part of what was known as then the British Commonwealth. In the later 1940s, when there's a greater desire for independence among what were then called the British colonies, the Commonwealth is invented as an idea through which newly independent nations can still remain close and attached to Britain as part of this new thing called the Commonwealth of Nations. So the British Commonwealth evolves into the Commonwealth of Nations, which encompasses almost all of those colonies that had once formed part of the greater British Empire.
Despite the incentive for a better quality of life, not all members have been keen on staying. Due to the criteria for joining and remaining a member during the early 21st century, Ireland, one of the founding dominions of the Commonwealth, made the decision to declare itself a republic and, as a result, excluded itself from the Commonwealth in 1948. In 1949, India also declared itself a republic at a Commonwealth Prime Minister's meeting in London. Under the London Declaration, India agreed that when it became a republic in January 1950, it would remain in the Commonwealth and accept the British sovereign as a symbol of the free association of its independent member nations and as such the head of the Commonwealth.
On January 26, 1950, the Republic of India was established. India had been a free nation for almost 2.5 years. But this ceremony heralded the severing of the bond with the British Crown.
On and from this, the 26th day of January 1950, India, that is Bharat, shall be a sovereign, democratic republic.
The trend of becoming a republic continued. During the 60s, South Africa also played with the idea of declaring itself a republic. However, the circumstances were different. South Africa had a racial segregation policy known as Apartheid. The country's application to rejoin the Commonwealth after becoming a republic was challenged by members of the Commonwealth, namely those of non-white nations.
I must admit that I was amazed and shocked by the spirit of hostility, and in this last meeting, even of vindictiveness shown towards South Africa. In these discussions, in spite of the lengths to which we were prepared to go in the various draft communiques suggested, it is clear that in the view of the majority of Commonwealth Prime Ministers, after the lead given by a group of Afro-Asian nations, South Africa will no longer be welcome in the Commonwealth.
South African Prime Minister H.F. Verwoerd attended the conference to give formal notice that his country was to become a republic in May 1961, after approving the constitutional change in an October 1960 referendum. South Africa's application was opposed by the leaders of African states under black majority rule, as well as Indian Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, Malaya's Tunku Abdul Rahman, and the other non-white Commonwealth countries, as well as Canadian Prime Minister John Diefenbaker. On 25th of October 1993, South Africa was invited to rejoin the Commonwealth of Nations with effect from January 1994.
It is with a special sense of joy that I announce that South Africa will, from tomorrow, 1st June 1994, return to full Commonwealth membership after a break of 33 years.
The move came after long promising talks on constitutional reform between the government, African National Congress, ANC, and other fundamental liberation movements.
We take this opportunity once more to pay tribute to the millions of Britons who through the years, and like others everywhere else in the world, stood up to say no to apartheid.
The Commonwealth canopy has emphasized our interdependence, while the Commonwealth Blue Charter promises to do the same in protecting our shared ocean resources.
The Commonwealth contains within it countries that have had constitutional relationships with my family, some that continue to do so, and increasingly those that have had none. I want to say clearly, as I have said before, that each member's constitutional arrangement, as republic or monarchy, is purely a matter for each member country to decide.
The Commonwealth has benefited Great Britain in the sense that it's ensured Britain is seen as a global power, despite the fact that Britain's international status is very much reduced now compared to how it was in the immediate aftermath of the Second World War.
I declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service and to the service of our great imperial family to which we all belong. But I shall not have strength to carry out this resolution alone unless you join in it with me, as I now invite you to do. I know that your support will be unfailingly given. God help me to make good my vow, and God bless all of you who are willing to share in it.
Of course, our association is more than a partnership of governments. The real soul of the Commonwealth, the motor, the drive, call it what you will, is provided by people within and without those governments.
The benefit of long life brings me the experience that arrangements such as these can change calmly and without rancor. But as I said in Barbados last November, we should never forget the things which do not change. The close and trusted partnership between Commonwealth members, our common values and shared goals, and perhaps most importantly, the strong and enduring connections between the peoples of the Commonwealth which strengthen us all.
The fact that the Commonwealth is also led by the British monarch has also given a stage to the British royal family on which they can perform in a global context. And that's been really important to ensuring the continued support and interest for and in monarchy across the world.
In the modern world, the Commonwealth exists to foster international cooperation and trade links between people all over the world.
The future of the Commonwealth is uncertain. We are transitioning to a new reign and a new head of Commonwealth. As a result of the 2018 Head of Commonwealth Governments meeting, Prince Charles was nominated as the successor Head of Commonwealth.
Your Majesty, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is a very special pleasure to be here with you all this morning and to join Her Majesty the Queen in welcoming each of you to Buckingham Palace for the formal opening of the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. This is an occasion to celebrate with renewed pride our remarkable Commonwealth family, particularly as it follows so hard on the heels of the 21st Commonwealth Games on Australia's Gold Coast. at the opening of which I was proud to have been asked to represent Her Majesty.
And yet it's not a hereditary position, and that's to say that the next head of the Commonwealth might not necessarily be a member of the British royal family. I think once that royal link potentially disappears, it does beg the question, why is it that this group of nations bother to hang together?
Every 4 years, members of the Commonwealth participate in a gaming event. The games include sports prevalent in the Commonwealth. Many Commonwealth nations play similar sports, quintessentially British, rooted in and developed under British rule or hegemony, including cricket, football, rugby, field hockey, and netball.
Witnessing this great gathering of 71 countries and territories and meeting their athletes in the Games Village was, above all, a moving reminder of the strong and affectionate bonds which we all share.
Underpinned by the core values of humanity, equality, and destiny, the Games aim to unite the Commonwealth family through a glorious festival of sport.
For my part, the Commonwealth has been a fundamental feature of my life for as long as I can remember, beginning with my first visit to Malta when I was just 5 years old. I consider myself fortunate over the years to have been able to meet and talk with so many of the giants of the Commonwealth. Sir Robert Menzies, Kwame Nkrumah, Sir Keith Holyoake, Jomo Kenyatta, Pierre Trudeau, Kenneth Kaunda, Julius Nyerere, Lee Kuan Yew, and many more. On the foundations they laid, the modern Commonwealth has a vital role to play in building bridges between our countries, fairer societies within them, and a more secure world around them. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I pray that this Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting will not only revitalise the bonds between our countries, but will also give the Commonwealth a renewed relevance to all its citizens, finding practical solutions to their problems and giving life to their aspirations.
It has also been the case that Elizabeth II has been the key symbol at the heart of the Commonwealth. I think when she is gone, I think questions remain to be answered about where it goes without her, in that it's her own energy and initiative that has really ensured the continuity and success of this organisation.
From her 21st birthday address from South Africa to the present day, Queen Elizabeth II has dedicated her life to serving the children of the Commonwealth.
The Queen Elizabeth Diamond Jubilee Trust is providing life-changing eye treatment to many thousands through the generosity and cooperation of the nations represented here today. My family and I have been heartened by these and many other programs in which we are proud to play a part. I'm glad to see that young people, connecting through technology, are becoming ever more involved. When I meet the young leaders of this century, I remember my own lifelong commitment made in South Africa in 1947 at the age of 21.
I declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service and to the service of our great imperial family to which we all belong. But I shall not have strength to carry out this resolution alone, unless you join in it with me, as I now invite you to do. I know that your support will be unfailingly given. God help me to make good my vow, and God bless all of you who are willing to share in it.
In 1952, the Queen assumed the role of head of a Commonwealth from her late father, King George VI. Her father was the first monarch to hold this title before his passing in 1952. She toured the nations of the Commonwealth and engaged with the cultures she was bringing together through this union.
By doing so, the Commonwealth can be a cornerstone for the lives of future generations, just as it has been for so many of us.
After 70 years of its existence, the Commonwealth still stands as a remarkable organization which remains a significant force for change in the world today. Starting with just 8 members, now with 56 member nations, the Commonwealth has continued to grow. It stands for positivity and change, and it is a stark contrast to what was once the tyrannical British Empire.
As another birthday approaches this week, I'm reminded of the extraordinary journey we have been on and how much good has been achieved. It remains a great pleasure and honor to serve you as head of the Commonwealth and to observe with pride and satisfaction that this is a flourishing network. It is my sincere wish that the Commonwealth will continue to offer stability and continuity for future generations, and will decide that one day the Prince of Wales should carry on the important work started by my father in 1949. By continuing to treasure and reinvigorate our associations and activities, I believe we will secure a safer, more prosperous and sustainable world for those who follow us. A world where the Commonwealth's generosity of spirit can bring its gentle touch of healing and hope to all. Mindful, as always, that this summit of Commonwealth leaders draws its mandate and authority from our member countries collectively, it gives me great pleasure to declare this meeting of the Commonwealth Heads of Government open